Hi, I'm Brady Forrest. I hail from Seattle. I love coming to New York, and I really love TOC. This is my second time here. And Ignite is really about bringing geeks together, geeks of all types. So not just your techie geeks, but also your publishing geeks, because there's a lot of really great stuff to geek out about and dive in deep. And that's what we'll be doing tonight, or this afternoon, here at Ignite. And so what is Ignite? It's a series of 5-minute talks. And each speaker gets just 20 slides, 15 seconds a slide, for a total of 5 minutes. And it makes them really break down their ideas and make them digestible. Consider it your infotainment for the day. We've got 11 great talks today. It's a combination of product ideas, some thoughts, some dreams of a new world for publishing. I think you'll have a lot of fun. I've seen the slides. They're pretty great. And Ignite is not just a localized O'Reilly phenomena. It's actually a worldwide thing. We started it 3 years ago. It's in over 100 cities now. And next week, it may be in yours. We'll have Ignites in 65 cities on 6 continents around the world. So you should check out online. It's called Global Ignite Week. And you can go participate in one in your hometown, perhaps speak, share your ideas, share your thoughts from TOC, and let people know what's happening in the publishing world, in your world. There is one in New York on March 4th. And if there isn't one in your city, you can start your own, because as you can see, all you need is a stage, a laptop, and some great ideas. And now I'd like to welcome out our first speaker. You probably know who she is. She's reinventing the dictionary. Please welcome out Erin McKean.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here and to introduce the new Smart Words standard from WordNick. At WordNick, our goal is to have as much information as possible about as many words as possible and to share that information with as many people as possible. And so we have all this information. In fact, we're already sharing all this information with more than 150 partners, strong men and women of steel, who are using our data to make really cool applications and have really great information about words. So why are we engineering all this infrastructure and information about words? I know this isn't the right kind of engineer. This isn't a software engineer, but a Lego engineer is really cute, and you can never go wrong with a Lego engineer. So why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this because we know we can see the future where all print is digital, where all words are digital, and of course at WordNick we're very excited about words. And we know that this process is coming, and we know that this process is unstoppable. Now, we don't really want to stop this process because we're excited about a future where all of the words are digital. And we don't think anyone here really wants to stop this process. We think everybody here is pretty excited about it as well. But it's a big change. And big changes are disruptive. Big changes can be scary. Big changes are uncomfortable, and they make us re-examine how we think about things. And of course, we were re-examining how we thought about words. But of course, the same thing that brings disruption, change, also brings new opportunities. And of course, opportunities are exciting times to get away from the way that you've always done things. And another thing is, opportunity is also a code word for money. And we have the advantage of lagging a little bit so we can see how other industries have managed the transition from non-digital to digital, and we can learn from what worked for them and also what didn't work for them. So with Smart Words, we're thinking there's a lot of new information that's going to be made about words and with words, but there's no easy way to exchange that information about words. So Smart Words is a new standard that lets you get information about words and share information about words. So why Smart Words? Well, print words are dumb. Non-digital words are dumb. I hate to say this about words because I love words, but print words can be dumb as bricks. But smart words, on the other hand, digital words, they know things. They know where they are, and they know where they came from. They know when they are. They know how they relate to other words around them. They know who created them, and they know who they're hanging out with now. And we think this is pretty exciting, and we think if you can know where your words are and who they're hanging out with and what other words are around them, if you can map them, you can have a really cool network. And if you've got this information about words, if you can ask any word, like, tell me all about yourself, What kind of aha moments and opportunities for discovery and delight can you add to your text? If you've got the chance to ask a word a question, what kind of things can you add to your devices that help your readers do more things with the text that you've got? What kind of new features can you add? What kind of opportunities are there for sharing things that people have found in text? If you can ask words these questions and they answer, then there can be a closer connection between the readers and the text and the devices. You can have more opportunities for personalization. You can have not just smarter words, but maybe even smarter readers. So Smart Words is a way in which we would like people to be able to do more with their words. But to do more of what you've got more of, we're not asking you to do more things. We want the words to do the heavy lifting. The words will have to be smart. So Smart Words is a standard. We want it to be simple. It will be lightweight, easy to use. It will enable powerful APIs. And it will be exciting in a way that we hope more people will be excited about words and the kinds of cool things that you can build from them. So now at WordNick, we're pretty smart about words. But our initial Smart Words partners here, they're pretty smart about a whole lot of other parts of the publishing business. These logos are not to scale. So we think that with these people's help in developing our Smart Words standard, that it will be really useful to a broad range of people in publishing. So we'd like you to join us. If you have some interesting ideas about what kinds of information you'd like to have about words, and what kinds of information you'd like to share about words, what data sets do you have that could be published under this open standard? We would really like to hear it. You can email us at smartwords@wordnick.com. You can check us out on the web at smartwords.wordnick.com. We'd really like to know what you have to think about Smart Words. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Erin. I look forward to seeing what you do with my employer. The next speaker has been speaking throughout the conference, and I know she's relieved that this is the last time she has to be on stage, and she's here to introduce her new product. Please welcome Liza Daly.
Thanks, Brittany. So when I first started doing ebook development, I had to do a lot of careful research because at the time there weren't any, there were only a few standards out there and they were kind of widely distributed. There weren't, we hadn't really yet focused on EPUB. So I had to, think really hard and do a lot of sort of on-the-ground library research. And when EPUB first came out, I was really enamored by it, because it's a technology that uses CSS and XML and HTML, and it felt like that was a good synergy between those technologies which were borrowed from the web and book technology. And part of the reason is because I think of the internet and the web as being this kind of grand scope of all of human experience. It's all our lives now being lived digitally, and lives that have come before that have been digitized. And I wanted to see books become a part of that global conversation about our lives and our existence as people. But until recently, it's been very difficult for books to join that conversation because they've been locked up in proprietary ecosystems, or they've been in offline devices where there was no connectivity with the outside world. So things are now changing, and part of that is facilitated by this relationship between the technology in ebooks and the technology on the web. What I think is going to be cool about that is that you can start to do projects like the one I did last year called Bookworm, which is now hosted by O'Reilly, where users can upload their books into the cloud. There are 55,000 ebooks that have been uploaded by people available on it right now. It's open source. It's something that a lot of publishers have used to test their work, and other people have extended that code. So this year, my company wanted to do something a little beyond what books on the web had been. So I'm announcing that we're launching this product called IBIS Reader, which has some similarities to Bookworm in that it's web-based, but we're really focusing on the mobile reading experience using where mobile is not just the kind of smartphones that we're used to, but any internet-connected device. So that's actually my PlayStation 3 running IBIS in my living room. Because it doesn't have to be a device designed for ebooks. It can be anything that can run HTML5 or a lot of these web-friendly technologies that you're going to hear other players like Google Editions entering into. So I don't want to talk too much about what IBIS Reader is. You can go look at the site after the launch. I want to talk a little bit more about what it means for a book to become a kind of citizen of the net. What can they do when they're connected to the network in a way that we haven't been able to do before? And I think a part of that is books becoming more of autonomous agents. They can know things about themselves. And the way Aaron was talking about words, they can know their context. They can know things about their existence on the web. Now, ebooks in general have front covers, or they should, but they don't have back covers. So when you get to the end of an ebook, it doesn't have to stop because the book is bound. The book can kind of spill out onto the net. It can reach outside of its own story and find additional information that might be of interest to the reader. For example, a book can know that it's part of a series, and it can lead you, when you finish it, directly to its sequel. It could also know things about you, the reader, if you chose to share that information. It can know where you are. It can know whether you're the kind of person who wants to engage in conversation with people right after you finish a book, or you might be more private. The book can know who its author is and whether she's tweeting right now, whether she's a recluse who doesn't want to deal with her audience, or she's someone who wants to engage in these kind of circular conversations about books that we really want to help mediate. So, obviously, these are not all good ideas, so we want the help of publishers and authors, creative folks, readers, to tell us where we can go with this platform once books become on the web and like living agents of their digital existence. We're just going to kind of see what happens. So you can go check out the site, which is launching right now, and thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Liza. I feel a little drunk after that talk. Our next speaker is going to take us up north to Vermont, and she's going to talk about her own journey in the local publishing movement. Please welcome Judy Schwartz.
Thank you. I'm waiting for the slide. Aha. We apply the term slow to models like slow food and slow money. That you might not have heard of, but it's something I've done some reporting on. Yeah. That support the local economy. Minimize environmental impact, stress diversity over monoculture, it's slow up there in Vermont, and respect the relationship side of transactions. But what about for publishing? I had written a book, The Therapist's New Clothes, a cautionary tale about psychotherapy. And as it turned out, the first independent bookstore in the country to have this nifty thing you'll see on the next slide was my local bookstore, the Northshire. So they were pioneers with the espresso book machine, a machine that prints and binds books on site. I thought, I can do this. So I found a local artist willing to take on psychotherapy. This is Amy's interpretation of the psychoanalytic couch. The first design was missing something. Clothes. It is the therapist's new clothes, after all. So I brought some over. A little bit of Photoshop free association, and we had our cover. I call this slow publishing because it's all local production. Nothing has to be outsourced. It keeps money in the community. At the bottom there, those are Berkshires, a local currency in Western Mass. And because books are only printed and transported as needed, it's light on the environment. Then there's the intangible piece of building relationships. The local basis and the scale leads to a sense of supportive collaboration. And the secret about slow publishing is that it's actually really fast. Once formatted, you can move from manuscript to book within minutes. Technologies are giving us new ways to go local, go green, and go personal. And for me, it allowed me to go my own way according to my own style. And for an author, it's those loyal readers that make it all worthwhile.
Thank you very much, Judy. Thank you for that meditation. And I feel relaxed now. I was a little drunk before, now I'm relaxed. And now, after looking at the slides, I feel like I'm going to be treated to some good data about reading habits. So we're diving right into the analytics. Please welcome Peter Collinridge.
Hi. So this talk was supposed to be given by Rhys Cazenove, my co-founder, who's had to go back to the UK at short notice. I'm not him. Nor am I Nick Cave, who I think Andrew wanted to get up here on stage instead of me, but I will be channeling Rhys when we talk about the data that we collected for our app for Nick Cave's book, The Death of Bunny Munro. When we set up Enhanced Editions, we knew that the data we would be collecting about people's reading habits as they moved from print to digital would be almost as important as the experience that they had. The insights that we get from working on the web are just, they're not something that you find in the print world. For example, Rhys, who spent the last 3 years working at Comedy Central on some of their big branded video projects, all of these sites are funded by advertising revenue, and they need to work out the most money they can make by retaining and attracting as many customers as possible. We try and bring all of this information into the apps. What are analytics? Well, basically, they are the feedback loop between the marketing endeavors that you do and your customers. And they take the form of a variety of different products, from Google Analytics all the way down to dedicated in-app iPhone tracking software. The importance of this data is known to all of the big companies who are on the publishing landscape at the moment, whether it's Amazon or Google. I've always found that publishing is a very intuition-based business that says, oh, I love this book, it's going to sell 1 million copies. Whereas Jeff Bezos tends to have the view that when it comes down to the important things, it's data that matters. There's always been a feedback loop between the publisher, their marketing activities, and the readers, but short of breaking into people's houses, thumbing through their bookshelves and seeing which page they've got up to, that information has never been available to publishers before. It's not very legally advisable either. These days, however, with the web, whether it's email mailing lists, whether it's Google searches, whether it's social media, Twitter, the boundaries have been blurred between what people do and what you can find out about them, and this is something that publishers must take advantage of. No more is this obvious than on handheld devices that people now have with them at 24 hours throughout the day. We can collect and analyze data from these devices to find out what people are reading and to provide better information about them. The specifics that we do within our applications is we track every single feature from the font size to the audio sync to the videos that they see, and we collect this information to find out what has worked, whether our intuitions when we set up the company were correct or not. Some of this information is completely random. So we find out, for example, that people who are reading The Death of Bunny Munro tend to love reading it between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning for about half an hour. You contrast that with Barack Obama's book, which is read for nearly 2 hours at lunchtime, and you draw your own conclusions. Users spend, on average, 5 minutes in the average iPhone application, whereas our average time spent per session is 24 minutes, nearly 5 times the average. We draw great comfort that this means that people are prepared to read on smaller screens. Other intuitions that we had have been confirmed by the analytics. So we found out that the audio sequences are much more popular than even we could have guessed, hope to think they would be. The audio segments are much more heavily used than the video within the app, which was quite a surprise. One of the other features which has been really, really popular is the in-app newsfeed, which we use to, as Liza said, extend the life of the book. After the book's been published, we can update the app through RSS. And this has been a massively popular feature that makes the customers feel they've got a relationship with the author. Moving out of app analytics, we can triangulate sales data against press reports. And this is a chart that shows the direct relationship between press coverage we've had and region-based sales. One of the most incredible insights we had was in Norway, where we had sales that went absolutely off the scale, outstripping those even of Canada. Through a bit of research, we found out this was down to a number of factors, not least high ebook prices. And without this information, we wouldn't be able to now be pursuing the business opportunities that we are pursuing in Norway. Twitter is another source of information which can be great fun, but also it's as addictive as crack cocaine when you're trying to work out what your customers are saying about you. Still, what it does do is provide a qualitative context to the quantifiable data that we see from other sources. It's not all good news, though. If there's any hypersensitive lawyers in the room, cover your ears now. I'm afraid we know that nobody reads the copyright page, not even by accident. Now, talking of lawyers, another thing is really important when it comes down to analytics, and that's respecting your users' privacy. So in all of our apps, we allow people to turn off the usage tracking, which is anonymized anyway, and we find that about 50% of people do this. It doesn't matter to us because all of the data that we're collecting is aggregated anyway. So there's a number of sources that you can get analytics data from, and getting it on the iPhone is absolutely simple. If you're not getting it now from your current suppliers, if I were you, I would insist that you get it. All of your competitors will be having it. Our advice to you would be collect as much data as you can, change things, track it, see what happens, and when you experiment, and be prepared to act on the insights that you find. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. I noticed that even though you gave the talk, you still want all the email to go to Reese. And I'm trying to imagine the conversations that are going to happen with new authors. No, I'm sorry, we're going for the post-Saturday Night Live crowd, not the lunchtime crowd. Our next speaker is also going to be talking about a service. Her aim is to help automate part of your business. Please welcome up Emma Barnes.
Hi, how exciting. 5 minutes to talk about one of my greatest passions in life, which is making computers do all my work for me. I'm going to talk about creating a catalogue automatically. But before I do that, let's talk about time travel. You're trying to set the clock on your microwave, there's a big crash, and you find yourself in ancient Alexandria in 200 BC, culture of intellectual tolerance and inquisitiveness. And you tell them about aeroplanes and iPhones and frappuccinos, and soon they all want one. But they want to know exactly how you make a Boeing 767, exactly how you make an iPhone, and the precise recipe for a mocha frappuccino. But you're not going to get very far. There's too much knowledge in our complex modern world to be able to know it all. But there's another way to look at this. It is possible to make an aircraft without, I don't know, knowing where magnesium comes from. And even somebody who doesn't know anything about the technologies of our 21st century, can be taught to brew complex coffee drinks. And that's because this world is just full of infrastructure, complex layers of mechanisms and technologies that can be glued together in new and different ways to help us without duplicating the efforts of the people who invented them. We can put pre-existing chunks of infrastructure to work. Now, it's a little bit like learning just enough so that you can find the right cable to make your iPhone speak to your car stereo. We can add just enough new information to glue pre-existing chunks of technology together to solve new problems. And the sort of approach that I'm going to particularly be interested in is making great use of bibliographic data. Now, you all know what an ONIX message is. It contains title information, and it is routinely passed around the industry so that you can update everyone's systems. Most publishers have incredibly out-of-date processes for getting data into their catalogues and AIs. And it seems such a shame, if we're going to the bother of creating an ONIX record in the first place, why don't we use that as the source for our catalogues and AIs? Problem is that InDesign, which is what most catalogues and AIs can be made in, doesn't understand ONIX XML. It does understand XML, just not the ONIX kind. So, these systems aren't talking to each other. It's so close, but not talking to each other. So what we need to do is take that ONIX XML and turn it into the sort of XML that InDesign understands. And we're going to do that with an appallingly named programming language called XSL. But all you're really doing is creating a metaphorical cable between these two systems. Once you've got your XSL, you can do amazing things. Imagine you're a publisher with 1,000 titles. You get a web page mocked up, stick a bit of XSL in it, hit a button, and 5 seconds later, you've got a 1,000-page website. Imagine you've got a bibliographic database, like the frankly gorgeous and excellent value one that we've created at ONIX Central. It's very easy to get an ONIX message out of it. You just hit the export button. Then you go over to your InDesign template, which is already tagged up with all of your XML placeholder text. You can see the tags on the left-hand side on the structure pane there. And if you're a publisher, then you've got a few InDesign licenses kicking around, so it's not going to be a high-cost option. You click File and Import. And what this does is fetch the bit of XSL that you've written to transform the ONIX record from something that InDesign can't read to something that it can. And hey presto, all of your data flows beautifully into InDesign. It's all beautifully laid out, and the layout is only limited by your imagination. It's a really flexible tool. You can see all of the data has flowed in there on the left-hand side. I'm going to see another view of that document now. So what you've got here is just one example of getting an existing set of technologies and sticking them together to do something new and useful. This used to take us 3 weeks, and now it takes us 3 minutes. And there's loads of other examples of this sort of approach as well. You can use Photoshop. It's got scripting capabilities built in. We use it to take cover designs and turn them into 3D images, put them in a place where InDesign can find them for our catalogues, so that it's all automatic. Another great example is we've created a little application that goes to the interweb, gets title information so that we can check it and validate it and ensure that it's accurate, and check that the sales are doing what they should be doing as well. So, there are heaps of possibilities for this sort of thing. Take a look within your organisations, see if people are doing something that could be automated. And even if you don't quite know how, I can guarantee that somebody out there will have figured out how to do 95% of it. Bridge that final 5% with your own bit of techie know-how, and you can reap huge rewards. We've done all of this without any sort of IT budget and no formal IT training, so there's no reason why any organisation can't. There's my details if you'd like to get in touch and have a chat about it. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed for listening.
Thank you very much, Emma. Our next speaker is going to do a riff on everything I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten, except it's aimed at the publishing industry. Please welcome Richard Nash.
So as it turns out, my PowerPoint broke the deck. So the next 15 seconds actually involves me entertaining the audience while they change the deck. It was a sort of heroic act of technological incompetence. The one thing I noticed is that right now it seems as if you're getting this is the British-Irish accent section of the program. Started with the two Brits and then the post-colonial Irishman. And who knows what's going to happen next. Oh, it started. I was looking. Oh, goodness gracious me. Okay. Well, here we go. This is the highly expedited version. This is the 4-minute, 30-second version. I was looking at the wrong thing here. I started an independent publisher. I ran it for 10 years. It was called Soft Skull. It was a DIY indie post-punk press. We were basically, in 2004, The Guardian asked, what books got you laid? One reader said, Soft Skull's books. We used to get a lot of submissions, consequently. Submissions from people who self-identified as soft skull writers, soft skull readers. They sent us cover letters in which we had, in which they said how much they loved our books. They'd bought 5 of them, 10 of them, or more. And how did we treat these people? We were rude to them. They gave us their heart, and we gave them generic rejection slips. 20 million Americans engaged in creative writing over the last few years, and here was a group self-identifying as soft skull writers and readers. So let's stipulate this. The publisher is a community already, no matter how arrogant or humble. So what next? Well, since leaving Soft Skull, I continued to be asked, how do I get my book published? I tell people, write essays, short fiction, publish poetry on online webzines, comment on author websites, do reading series. These give you visibility. Agents might discover you. Publishers will like you because you already have a readership. Find your community, I say, and participate in it. What I don't say is the best reason to do this isn't to get published. The best reason to do this is to be happy. At Soft Skull, I published over 100 debut authors. Fact, having your book edited, designed, printed, shipped, shelved does not make you happy. The second it's shelved, the postpartum depression kicks in. Being connected to one's peers, both writers and readers, is what makes you happy. Publishing a book is not an end in itself. It is a means to an end, and the end is companionship. Publishing, understood as consummating the writing-reading relationship, that's what we already know and do and need to do in the future. So whereas DIY tools for production that make a physical book or a PDF or an EPUB are fantastic, but they're about production, and we need connection. While most media can be consumed in under 2 hours, a song even in 3 minutes, books take 15 hours of somebody else's voice inside your head. Imagine the commonality between 2 people having the same voice inside their head for 15 hours. We have to bring, therefore, writers and readers together in all configurations. Writer and reader, reader and reader, writer and writer. Bringing them together in, you might say, communion. I told a friend about the 3 C's that I've just listed: community, companionship, communion. And he said, you missed the 4th. What, says I? Cash, says he. Oh, I'm working on the next round of funding, says I. No, says he, cash you're helping writers make. Jeans sell for $250 based on the story jeans tell about you. The self-help biz sends $1,000 seminars. But the novel can offer a truly deeply transformative experience. There's traditional supply chain print, because how can you build a community if 95% of your readers can't participate? And there's freemium membership in socially enabled writing, reading communities, because everybody needs a wee bit of secret sauce. If you want to help us build that secret sauce, Give me a holler, arnash@thinkcursor.com. We'll take all kinds, interns over to engineers with, Ajax and server-side JavaScript experience. Thanks, you guys rock.
Thank you very much, Richard. Until you said JavaScript, I felt like I was at a revival. Our next speaker is going to dive into another product to help you with your business, your domain-specific business. Please welcome Bob Pritchett.
Thanks. EBooks are having a hard time commanding premium prices. We've already seen hardcover equivalent prices disappear, and Amazon is teaching consumers that $10 is the most they should ever pay for one of those ebook things. So where's it going to end? I hope not at zero, and we're looking at ways to stop that. The problem is there's just too many books. We have thousands of them being published every year, and nothing ever goes out of print thanks to print on demand. And if it did go out of print in the past, Google and libraries are going to scan it and throw it back on the heap. So users are out there drowning in content, and we have very crude tools for managing and organizing that content. So we're in a situation now where everything's available, but the mini monopolies that books have enjoyed over the years, let's say being the only dictionary that I have on my shelf, or being the only Italian cookbook that this store sells, or the only novel I put in my briefcase and got on the airplane with, those are gone. Users have access 24/7 to everything, so all the books start to look the same, and if your book isn't meeting my needs, I can move to something else cheap. Logos Bible Software started in 1991 with 6 ebooks. Today we publish 10,000 ebooks, all in the single knowledge domain of Bible study. As we went towards 10,000 books over those 18 years, we learned that users got tired of too many search results. They wanted more content, they wanted more books, but we were overwhelming them. They didn't really want a bigger, longer list of search results. They wanted answers to their questions. So we reinvented our software a few years ago. It used to be a generic ebook reader with a generic search engine and looked like all the other ebook readers you see. We reinvented it as a Bible study answer machine. We built knowledge of the tasks the users were bringing to the software into it. So it knows what a pastor needs to do every week. It knows that communion is the same thing as Eucharist, that infant baptism is the same thing as paedo-baptism. It knows how you parse and render a Bible reference, how you compare it, search for it, look it up in an index. We've bundled together backlist and frontlist content and built a user interface that doesn't open to a cover of the book from which you go on to page 1, but rather to a task-oriented user interface. Many of our users don't even use search as their primary way of going into the product. Instead, they use a guide. So our passage guide lets you enter a passage, and then it sorts through your thousands of books as if it was a research assistant and brings back just those few books that'd be helpful to you preparing this sermon or doing this Bible study. In the same way, if you want to look up a single word, our word study guide will do all the steps of a manual word study. It'll look up the Hebrew word, it'll point out the best lexicons with definitions, it'll even visualize different translations, show you statistics and graphs. If you do want to do a basic search, the system recognizes keywords in the knowledge domain. So if you search for communion in your entire library, it can suggest alternate search terms, it can suggest user-created reading lists, it can even tell you the best articles to look up in Bible dictionaries and encyclopedias. And then we have painstakingly tagged databases like our alignment between the original Greek and Hebrew and the English, which lets us do really cool stuff like highlight on the right one phrase in English and see how it was translated in the translation on the left while seeing the Greek below. We have data visualizations, so if you want to see patterns in the text to look for repeated phrases, we've got that kind of specialized data. And we have special data sets that we've hand-built about people, places, and things, and controlled vocabulary for our knowledge domain. And these data sets are like glue that connect all the different ebooks together. So we've hand-linked and hand-disambiguated all the people, all the names, all the place names, linked things to latitude, longitude, linked them to special thematic maps, and then provided visualizations that let people copy them into PowerPoint or put them into their papers. And these are all unique data sets that didn't exist in any book form before. What we've learned is that users will pay for digital content, but they do expect it to be cheaper. So we don't want to keep going down to lower prices, so we bundle frontlist and backlist content together so that the user sees a higher value proposition, but we're able to retain a higher price point. Then we integrate tools and content so that we meet the user's needs with exactly the task they want to do. The software knows what books are available, and it knows what tools and tasks the user is going to bring to it, so it can bring back exactly the right results. And then we build unique digital assets, and these unique digital assets are glue that connect the existing ebooks together. It creates a virtuous circle, a network effect in which each new book added to the system and connected to these data sets becomes more valuable by its connection to the other pieces. This has allowed us to maintain a premium price point. Our best-selling product is $630 in a world where there's lots of free Bible content on the internet. And our users consider that price a fantastic deal because it solves their problems, doesn't just give them a list of search results. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bob. I was suddenly flashing back to term papers I had in religion class in high school and wishing I had that tool. Our next speaker is going to be talking about something I'm sure has always, something we've always pondered, which is how does iTunes work and what is going on in that store? Please welcome pardon me, I had a vocabulary lesson from him right before this. Al Katkowski.
So the 1992 vice presidential debate, James Stockdale, you'll probably remember, went to the podium and he said what? He said, "Who am I? What am I doing here?" I'm Al Katkowski. I'm a musician, and I happen to have written a book, and it's called Question of the Day, and I made it into an iPhone app. At a certain point in the book's progress, there are two drivers that affect me when I'm in a certain situation with the project. One is that if things aren't going my way, I start to feel a sort of sinking feeling, which on this day my mom helped me with, but no more. The other driver that I have in this situation is that I will do anything I need to get things fixed. The book makes everything possible. I had a product I was confident in. I've seen it work in speed dating. I've seen it work in an 8th grade classroom in Brooklyn, and people take it seriously. My friend Jason called me, and he said, "Listen, you have to get your book on the iPhone. It's perfect." He was looking at oblique strategies. He also said, "Dude." When someone says dude, you have to sort of take that a different kind of way, and I know Jason. What you need to do is to be in touch with the people that you've gotten in touch with through social media directly. These people are going to help you out very, very specifically. These are the people you can count on a special favor from. The next thing you need to do is to have everything downloaded the same day. If someone's going to buy your content at some point when they feel like, in a month, they'll do it on one day for you. That's your shot at spiking up the charts in iTunes, okay? That'll get you some notice. There's some social proof that goes on there. And keywords are the other big part of it. Most of my keywords are right close to the topic, but there's one rogue keyword, and you can see it right there. And it's done a little bit of magic. If you put that into iTunes, you will see. It's actually slipped down one right now, but if you put Kindle into iTunes, you'll see my book right away. Now, how many people put Kindle into iTunes every day? Quite a few. So I've gotten a little bit of mileage out of that, you could say. From there, how do you promote an app versus a book? I did events at the Apple Store. We did events in Manhattan. We did events in Santa Monica, San Francisco. And the idea is to keep up with all these contacts. It's not a big mystery. You just had to give some email addresses and call that guy, which is what we used to say in my band. Once you get this position, let it sit there. My app is getting downloaded 300 times a day. I didn't sell 1,000 copies of my book. It's a whole new world. A whole new thing has opened up. When I was at the Writer's Digest conference, someone said to me, Apple knows your followers and you don't. And I took that as a sort of, nah. What are you going to do about that? Fortunately, it's easily cured. The next update of my app has a direct link to email and an invitation to connect. And what it says is, let me know what you want in the next app, and I'll let you know what happens. So it's an invitation for a two-way connection, and it's pretty clear. So I have that going for me next time. If you want to do an app out of your book, there are a lot of companies making excellent products. I went with a developer who will do anything. I could say to him, Daniel, can I download a couch? He'll say, well, maybe in 2 years you can download a couch. But I said, let's do video. And he said, yes. So last May, we had video in the app. And I think I was about 5 months pre-Vaynerchuk, which is a pretty good thing in 2009. that sort of gave us a little bit of extra notoriety. I would suggest going that way if you want to. There's a whole lot of things that need to be created, and we heard this morning about the book going straight to the audio version. That needed to happen for a long time. This is not something that Seth Godin said, but it's something I heard out of 4 or so different statements. I think the war on free content is over, and everyone has to come to the table. So you have to decide how you're going to do it. My suggestion for the app world is take a 10-chapter book, give away 7 chapters, give it away 1 chapter at a time, 1 every 2 weeks or so. Monitor the progress. At the end of the 7th chapter, say, listen, we have a pay version now, and you'll get someone in there. I hate the cliche knowledge is power, because I see a lot of people sitting with it and feeling comfortable with it, not realizing that the other step is action. We all have a lot of knowledge right now. But I like to say that saying knowledge is power is like saying a car is a road trip. If you don't use it, you're not going to go anywhere. So I'm fortunate enough to have had 125,000 downloads of my app. And we'll see what happens next. The update should be coming this week. And you can check me out on Q of the Day Book on Twitter. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Al. And we have just 3 more talks for you. We've got a pep talk, we've got a visual search talk, and then we're going to end with a story. Our next speaker is an O'Reilly author and spoke yesterday. Please welcome up Nilofer Merchant.
We have a lot of challenges in this world, and so what I think we need now are superheroes. And I'm hoping one of you will sign up. So in my day job, I help companies figure out how to use their market power. And what I've realized is it's through the power of collaboration they can accomplish great things. And I think also we need to figure out how to capture the power of the people inside those organizations. We need superheroes inside those companies. Slides are going to move any second now. So one of the questions I keep asking people is, do you have power? And as I've talked to people, and notable economists and CEOs and general managers, what I've found is a whole bunch of people think about power as sort of a Rorschach test. Some people think, I've got it, I so own it. Some people think that power is incredibly evil. And most people, the vast majority of people, actually fall somewhere in the middle. They think that power doesn't belong to them. So if you had a distribution curve, you'd have a few people thinking evil, a few people really owning it, and the vast majority believing it doesn't belong to them. How about you guys? How many people think you're powerful? Good hands. Awesome. So when the publishing industry is facing all these woes, what I want to do is just help you think about power and how to have more of it in the work you do. And these are the longest 15-second slides I have ever seen. And there's the Rorschach test, for those of you that haven't seen it before. And so one of the things, and now it's moving along just fine. There we go. And so my example for who has power is Batman. Because Batman was the ultimate collaborator. He didn't just rely on himself and wearing the cape. He looked also for Alfred, right, who bought all the gadgets, or Robin, who helped pick him up whenever he fell. He also coordinated with, the police. And so there are 7 secrets from the Batman story I think might help us with power. One is Batman always believed in something big. So that's a good lesson for all of us. He, of course, wanted to work on injustice. I think we need to work on many other issues. We need the right tools, whether it's education or experience, not necessarily titles or rank for us to have power. We need to have sidekicks in our role, and sidekicks, meaning the people who will work with us to go out and create good things. They will help us when we're down, they will bring us what we need, and they will complete our skills and tools. What we also need is to don the cape. So the difference between superheroes and wannabe superheroes are the people who put on the cape. And so those 4 tools can certainly give us a lot, but the difference between good power and evil power is in how we deal with adversity. So Batman certainly had his share of adversaries, the sort of psychopaths. Hopefully we won't have very many psychopaths in our publishing industry career, but we might face some challenges. It's not just about what we believe and how we go forward with what it is we believe, right, our big deal, but in how we handle the controversies, the fights that we need to have within our organizations. I think we need to know how to have fair fights and how to actually deal with conflict. And when I had those opportunities to deal with conflict, I did not pass my test. I actually took a friend who I had run a marathon with and gone shopping with and dating with and stuff, and I trashed her in a corporate meeting. And I failed miserably because I focused on the what and not on the how. But that's a lesson for all of us. Because all of us have weaknesses. Now, my weakness was a mental weakness because I thought I was right. But some people might have physical weaknesses or emotional weaknesses. It's when we manage our kryptonite that we know how to have great power. We also need to know when to take off our mask, when to go inside the bat cave and regroup, because we are not our jobs. We are not just the CEO or the mom or the different roles we play. We are, at times, just a person that needs to figure out how to regroup and go back. So great power comes from how we deal with donning on the cape and also how we deal with adversaries that we face along the way. That's the wisdom part of power. But you can have all of that as you step up. And for those of you that talked about, that you might thought that power was evil, what I'm going to propose is it's really about thinking about how you face the conflict in your life or work or your mission. For those of you that thought that power was already yours, good for you. I saw some hands in the front. Of course, those are the people who sit in the front. We need you to be our virtuoso, right? We need more leaders leading us forward. And for those of you that thought that power wasn't yours, I hope that you'll actually look at these really simple 7 things that we've talked about and figure out how you can step up. Because in whatever domain you lead, it may not be what Batman led in, right? But whatever domain you lead, I hope that you will lead us forward because the world needs more superheroes. We're in an era of incredibly creative work, an era that is different eras than we've had before. We had the era of production where we made things, right, like cars and stuff. And then we had the era of information, which gave us market power when we made chips. We're in a really creative era now, where what we make isn't just about what we know, but about what we know. And that represents a shift for all of us. I think we need to figure out what does it need in terms of new tools, new approaches. So I've written this book called The New How, which is my particular sort of mission is to figure out how to change how business works, especially how dysfunctional businesses work, big companies that don't know how to work across the silo. And that challenge is to figure out how do you get that organization to collaborate to figure out how to create better business outcomes. That's my mission. I certainly hope you'll join me on it. But for whatever it is, that mission is, we've got to figure out for you what is the way in which you're going to collaborate with people. Because the story that Batman taught us, as an ordinary human being, that being highly motivated can create great change. And it is up to us to decide whether or not we will don the cape and take on the challenges ahead of us. So how about it? I hope I have some superheroes in the room ready to take on that challenge.
And Nilofer was kind enough to bring a T-shirt to give away.
So we'll do this together. Actually, I need a demo. Can you be my demo dolly? Okay. So this shirt is a New How shirt. On the front of it, it says the future is not created, the future is co-created. And then on the back, it says, I am the New How. The thing that makes this shirt really special, so before you raise your hand asking for it, is it has wear instructions. And it says, only wear on days when you want to be a co-creator, because innovation strategy and winning is not a department, it's a way of working. So you can't wear the shirt on a day when you're not ready to collaborate with other people. So that's the rules for the shirt, so don't take the shirt unless you're going to behave well.
All right, so how?
So the question for the audience, for who gets the shirt, who would like to be a superhero? I got a hand right there. Okay, meet me on this side. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome.
Our next speaker is bringing augmented reality to books. Please welcome Jamie Graham.
Hi there. My name is Jamie Graham, and I am from Ricoh Innovations. I'm going to be talking about visual search. And we'll try something here where I'd like all of you to take out your device. We all carry these very powerful devices around with us, and these devices are capable of augmenting our reality. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. And so what I did is I put some QR codes up. And of course, the idea is that you could take a picture and you could pull information back, because that's the way we do it today. And most of you can't take that picture because the camera's not powerful enough. But think of it as an exercise in being able to point at something and pull information back. And that's what I'll be talking about. So, as I mentioned, I come from Ricoh. And Ricoh, we have a lab in Silicon Valley. We do, in the company, we do software, but we're mainly known for these big hardware boxes. And of course, we are hurting too in the print industry because of this. What I'm here to talk about today is some of the technology we created called visual search. This thing is a magic lens, and I want to be able to point it at things like books and pull back information. I want to be able to point it at a car and pull back information. And we can do this today. And in fact, companies like Google are doing this today. Nokia and Amazon are all doing it today. And they're doing it in kind of a superficial way, where you can point at a book cover and get information. You can point at a poster and get information. You can point at the Golden Gate Bridge and get information. We're interested in books and magazines and catalogs and newspapers. And what we do is we index this information. So the contents of these things get indexed. And we use the natural characteristics, instead of a barcode, the natural characteristics of that printed page to become your future barcode. You can point at it and get information. All right? So I'm going to back up a little bit here and tell you about the platform that we're working with. We have an application on the App Store called iCandy. And iCandy is all about pointing at the moment, version 1, pointing at these barcodes and pulling back information. That's the first step. Second step is to add the visual search layer. So the other part of this is anytime I point at something, I'm going to want to have some connection to my social networks. And so we integrated Facebook, we integrated Twitter into our system so that you can publish the things that you're pointing at, all right? And then, of course, we have the analytics. So who's doing this kind of stuff? Well, the NHL is experimenting with it. Manor, Texas, Government 2.0, maybe you've heard that. Buildings, posters, it's all over the place. Lots of people are using it. QR codes are here today. And, of course, we know that because of this. The Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue has barcodes in it, all right? And I'll blow that up just so you guys can take a picture. And we know now that this has arrived because they're using it to connect to their readers. So how does it work? First of all, no barcodes, right? Get rid of the barcodes so you don't have to change the layout of your document. These are sample images that we submit to our server. They come from the webcam on your device. And I like to think of this like Shazam. Maybe a lot of you know Shazam. It's a great app. You sample a small amount of music, and it sends it to the server. The server sends back the content, okay? This is very similar to what we do, except we sample an image. A person takes a picture with their cell phone device, ship it to the server, and in some cases it all runs right on the device, and then we pull back the content, all right? So an example. Let's take this book, which is pretty famous. And that's the link to Amazon, by the way. When I was reading this book, I had to have my iPhone with me because there's so many little information factoids in this book that I was interested in. So I was pulling stuff up. I was typing on my iPhone. What I really wanted to do is just point my device at this thing and pull back information automatically. All right? So we can do this today. We have the stuff to do this right now. And we're going to do this, our current test is Department of Motor Vehicles. So here's a free document millions of people have access to, millions of people have to read, but it has static information that could benefit from visual information. All right? So here's an example. Here is a typical California student. She's learning, reading about driving. And this is the kind of stuff that you read in there. It has pictures, it has text. She picks up her iPhone. She points at the stuff that she's interested in, and it points her to a video that shows driving in some way, whatever she was pointing at. So now we've added motion to the static page. So that's all I have time for, but I do have a round table that I want to pitch, 8 o'clock and wilder. I will be giving demos. I'd love to hear some feedback, some discussion. So thank you very much, and come see me at the round table if you have any more questions or want to see live demos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And now I'd like to welcome on our last speaker. And, over the past hour, we've heard 10 other speakers. They've talked about technology, publishing, stores, and this next speaker is going to take us back to where it really begins, which is the story. Please welcome Hillel Cooperman.
Thanks, Brady. Everybody enjoy their fruit pizza? What is that? So I'm going to tell you a story about how lying to my grandmother's face in 1991 led me get into the children's digital book business. That was me. And this was my grandmother, Golda. She was a lovely lady, and one day I decided to videotape her telling her life story. Old people don't like this because they think it means you think they're going to die soon. She was also very vain. She said, put the lens cap on the camera. I said, no, it interferes with the audio. I promise it's off. She looked at me. This thing exchanged between us. She knew I was lying. I knew I was lying. We moved forward. And it started me on this path of documenting my family and getting inspired by the stories in my family. This guy on your right with the tie, that is my grandfather on my dad's side, Harry Cooperman. Behind him is his dad. He emigrated to Western Canada when he was 12, started a business in the unfortunately named Regina. That's him and his son. He got married, had a little boy, and one summer, his wife, this lovely lady, took their son to the lake, left the son on the beach, got up, walked into the ocean, and never came out. Walked into the lake and never came out. She committed suicide, leaving this boy and my grandfather unable to care for him. He had to put him in the Winnipeg Orphanage for Jewish Children. In the meantime, in Russia, this is my grandmother's family. Here she is. And in 1925, she abandoned half her family and the love of her life, apparently, could have been my grandfather, to move to Western Canada. She was a nurse in Russia, and she migrated. Her name is Bella Cooperman. She migrated on this boat, the New Amsterdam, by the way. There she is. That guy with the newspaper or whatever he's holding is wicked happy. She went on this boat to Western Canada and became the head nurse at the Jewish Children's Orphanage in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where she, now again, this is all according to my uncle, so it's apocryphal, but it's cute, met my uncle as a little boy there, fell in love with him, and then decided, because of that, to fall in love with his father, my grandfather, Harry Cooperman. So my grandmother, Bella, made a little family here with Harry and his son, Earl, and then they had my dad, Bernie, which I think you'll see a picture of in a moment. There's Bernie. I like showing naked pictures of my father to strangers because it embarrasses him. This is some psychological payback that I'll have to work out in therapy later, but I enjoy it, so please allow me that. Anyway, there's Bella and my dad with that sort of cool car. Very adorable. Look at his socks. That's some socks. Hot. All right, anyway, these are my grandparents. Remember my grandmother, Golda, who I lied to. Her husband is one of the two on the sides. I don't know which one because they're twins. They're a pretty unhappy bunch, the Jackson family. Not super attractive either, I would say, my great-grandmother. This is Jackson's Fish Market. Started way back when. The short guy with his back to the camera, I think, is my great-grandfather. Then this is many years later. Here we are, Jackson's Fish Market. Notice the carp. And again, my grandfather and grandmother eventually, Harry Jackson and Goldie Jackson, eventually ran this store for a while in Detroit, actually. Now, how does this all connect to me getting into the business of selling children's books and to my life? Well, this is my middle child, my daughter, Bella Golda Cooperman, named after my grandmother's. She's She's quite sweet. And these are my parents. There's the little naked guy. And my mom, Bernie and Diane, and they live in Maryland. And my kids live in Seattle. And I wanted them to be able to read bedtime stories to my kids. Here they are. But they couldn't do that because they don't live in Seattle. So I tried videotaping them, and that was cumbersome and subpar. And sure enough, after 10 years at Microsoft, 3 years ago I started my own software company called Jackson Fish Market. Of course. What else would you name a software startup? Notice the little carp on the window? We just stole it from the logo. And the product we created is called A Story Before Bed at astorybeforebed.com. And what it lets people do is record children's books, picture books, video of themselves reading those books, and then let the kids watch them whenever they want. So here's my dad reading. I can't show you video because that's not the Ignite format, but here's sort of an animation, a simulation, if you will, of my dad reading a book to my kids that they can watch anytime, whether dad's asleep, they can turn the pages and dad's video resets, they can watch it over and over again. For anyone who comes up to me, by the way, I have coupons here for a free recording if you'd like to try it. We license these books from publishers. We give them a royalty every time someone pays. And the main point I wanted to say was, I only wish I'd had this software when my grandparents were alive. Because I would love for my kids' great-grandparents, for my kids to be able to meet their great-grandparents and have them read them a story using my software. That's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Hillel. And thanks to all the speakers. It's a challenging format, and they put up with it very graciously. So thanks to all them.